Hey everybody, all right, so we're back to talk about Captain Picard returning. You guys demanded that Clay come on and tell me what he thinks, which is always kind of a backhanded compliment to me, Clay, when people watch the video and then go, tell me what Clay thought about it. So I've returned with Clay. This is really off the cuff, so we might not have the most coherent of thoughts, but we just wanted to talk about maybe what we think about the Picard series would be. Well, Clay, you tell me what you thought about the announcement, and then I guess we'll just go into like what would we want out of this series.
I'll tell you my very succinct thoughts about this. No Tasha or GTFO. Wait, no, I have that wrong. Tasha or GTFO.
We got to be clear. She'll probably make an appearance. You know, not to cut off your point, but would you say that you're happy, sad, or indifferent to Picard?
I think it's too early to say. I think that I would like to think, let's put it that way. I would like to think that whatever they have planned is interesting enough that they brought that Patrick Stewart was like, you know what, this is actually a good way to return to this character, and it's not just like he needs the money or something, because I doubt that he does.
Right.
Especially the way that he's talked about being done with that character in the past. I would like to think that he just feels that this story that they're going to tell is unique enough and interesting enough and good enough, frankly, to warrant him coming back. Whether or not that's the case remains to be seen. The way he was cryptically talking about it, I wonder if it's just going to be like 10 episodes of Picard pruning, wine grapes or something.
Which is what some of our listeners would actually enjoy. I mean, so what do you think? Is this a continuing series, or is it a mini-series, one-season thing?
I don't think this is going to continue. I think it's going to be a short. Well, let's never say never, I guess. I mean, if it earns CBS All Access millions of dollars in followers, they probably will back another dump truck of money up to his house and ask him to do more. But I feel like the conditions just had to be correct for him in order to agree to do it. So my guess is it's probably a mini series. At most, maybe they do something like a British show and do like 2 seasons of 6 episodes or something.
Yes, if I can see. I mean, he's old at this point.
Yeah, he's almost 80.
Yeah, this is I could see that if it was a pseudo mini series where each season was just 5 or 6 episodes. I could see that happening. Yeah. He implied the fact that they don't really have anything down. I'd be a little surprised if they didn't have a rough idea of what they wanted to do.
I think they must. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't think you could get him to do it just by being like, hey, so
we got the CBS All Access thing. Yeah. You should come try that.
Yeah. I don't think having just the concept of maybe Picard comes back, question mark is enough to get him to do it. And I think in that announcement, he did mention specifically one of the writers coming to him with a take on it.
Yeah, they got a Pulitzer Prize winning writer on the staff now.
Yeah,
Michael Chabon.
Yeah, it wasn't him though. It was someone else. I think it was a woman.
Was it Kirsten Bayer? Was the other writer?
Yeah,
that
does she write Trek novels or something?
She does. Yeah, she wrote for Discovery first season. Yeah,
I think it was her.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting. Okay, let's think about this for a second. Do you want to see 80-year-old Captain Picard on a starship?
No.
Right. What do you want to see 80-year-old Captain Picard doing?
I don't know.
Yeah. That's the question, right?
My thing is, if I was on the writing staff, I'd say we can't have Nemesis be his final appearance. Like that, our goal, no matter what we do this season, we have to give a fond farewell, because that the minute that Patrick Stewart agreed to this, all the other cast members on TNG were just fist pumping going like, finally, like we're back for a little bit of a payday or something, because there's no reason that they don't bring the rest of that cast back as a sort of a real farewell to the TNG crew.
Right.
That's all I'm looking for out of this. And I don't want it to be the cliche Captain Picard gets pulled back in out of retirement to do one last mission and he's old. That doesn't really suit me, and I don't really want to see that. I don't know what they would do on Earth. The only timeline issue is that according to the Kelvin movies, Romulus should have been destroyed around this time that the Picard series is taking place in the Prime universe. So he could be dealing with fallout from that. But do you want this show to be dark and Discovery-esque, or do you want it to be lighthearted TNG stuff? I feel that's the big decision. I feel that's a tough call to make.
I don't think I want Discovery, because if you're bringing back Captain Picard and you're not being true to the source material, then like what's the point, you know?
That's more damage. There's a lot of risk with doing this and sort of like having something so bad that it taints your original perspective of the TNG and stuff. That's my fear anyway. It could happen.
Right, which, you know, I tend to not give that too much credence, because it's like the original is always there, and you know sometimes they make a bad James Bond movie, you know. It's my Star Wars argument. Like the later Star Wars stuff is impacted by enjoyment of the originals. That's how I view it anyway. Really, the new stuff is making you less like the old Star Wars less?
Yes, on some level.
Really? Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I've just never been able to. You know, it's the Alan Moore argument where people always ask him, like, are you pissed off that they butchered your book? And he's like, no, my book is still on the shelf. It's there if you want to read it. You know,
right?
Like, as much as I hate Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, it doesn't mean that I like Raiders of the Lost Ark any less.
Yep, the TNG Blu-ray set is still out there for you to enjoy and ignore everything else. Yep.
That being said, it's I think there is definitely there's a possibility of it ending up like the X-Files. Let's put it that way, where you're super excited that they're finally back. You get a couple good episodes out of it, but largely it was a kind of a waste of time.
Did the new X-Files not wrap up? Is this still continuing, or is it over for the X-Files?
No, X-Files, for all intents and purposes, X-Files is done. Yeah.
Okay. So did it satisfactorily wrap up those characters?
Well, you know, I'll tell you. I didn't finish it. I watched every the first and last episodes of each season were like mythology episodes, and they were so unwatchable. They were unwatchably bad.
Yeah.
And the season premiere of the second season especially was unwatchable. And so I watched all of the ones in the middle, which I actually thought were great. I thought they were really good. They were, you know, as far as a new season of the X-Files goes, you know, it worked for me. I was happy. I was satisfied.
The monster of the week type episodes.
Yeah. I specifically didn't watch the last episode because, like, I don't want to go out on a sour note. And from what I've heard, it wasn't really good. So that does, you know, unfortunately, that does exist. I mean, you've got the other side of the spectrum with your Twin Peaks revival, which is very much not what people expected, wanted, but it still was it's still satisfying in the end.
Yeah,
because it was so specifically David Lynch. Like, he didn't compromise. He just did what he wanted to do. And even though you didn't get exactly what you wanted out of it, you still kind of did. And at the end, it was just as engaging as anything else the show brought to the table was.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a weird thing. It's really hard to speculate at this point because we don't know what the name of the show is. We don't know what it's about. We don't know what it's going to look like.
Is it even confirmed that Picard is a lead?
I guess not. I mean, I would think that at this point he probably
has to
is.
be, even if they weren't planning on it. They're like, oh shit, we didn't clarify this point earlier.
Yeah, unless it's like Captain Picard is back, but more importantly, his son is here.
See, because, you know, Trek has the history of handing off with each series. Like, you tend to have a character from another series in the start of a new series. Like, Picard was on DS9 and Bones was on TNG's pilot. And that would have felt like if they didn't screw up Discovery and had Discovery be in a timeline that made sense, seeing Picard as the handing the torch off there would have made sense.
Yeah,
this is unique.
I have well, I don't want to say it's a theory, but I was going to say if they're smart, if they only get 1 or possibly 2 seasons, let's be realistic and say 1.
Yeah.
1 miniseries or 12 episodes, whatever miniseries out of a more Picard. I would do everything I could to make the world that he's in extremely interesting. So you could get your Picard show, but in doing so, you could also update the Star Trek world without specifically making it about updating the Star Trek world or specifically about these new characters you're trying to pass the torch to.
Yeah. And so you're building a launching pad for other series, potentially.
So if you get a good season out of this that people are into and they want to see more, but they know Picard's not coming back, you've laid the groundwork to be like, well, Picard isn't coming back, but there's this thing, and we've established where the Federation is in the future and all this kind of stuff, and there is... So you're passing the torch, but not in a very obvious way. That's how I would like to see them do it, because I don't think we need Captain Picard back just so he can play second fiddle to the new young guy that they want to cast for.
I hope that doesn't. I mean, it'll kind of fit thematically if there's a child in this, because that's always been a Picard thing. If he finally gets the son that he always wanted,
it doesn't have to be his son. I mean,
right.
It could be could be Riker's son or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Riker dies in a horrible Alaskan boating accident, and then Picard has to care for his child. That's what I was thinking. It seems, if I was betting, I would put strong odds on the fact that he gets a kind of protege who comes into it. That just seems to fit the character.
I will say, because we just talked about this on our over text yesterday. I was watching on the Blu-ray set for the original series, the Prime Universe movies. There's a little interview, an hour or so interview with Frakes, Stewart, Nimoy, and Shatner, and they got to talking about generations and stuff and passing the torch. And I said to you, I'm still pissed off that they didn't get Kirk on the bridge of the Enterprise D. It was such a layup.
For his death scene, or just in general?
In general, but I mean, I think we said it in the podcast. He should have ridden that ship into the ground. You know what I mean? His death should have been on the Enterprise.
Even to the point where if they're like, "Why is this happening?" He's saying because the plot demands it, and then he does it. I'd been like,
you could hand wave whatever shit you wanted to get him on that ship. Nobody's gonna care. Just seeing Captain Kirk on the bridge of the TNG Enterprise is everybody's mind would have just bled out their ears. It doesn't matter how he got there or whether or not it makes sense. The Nexus, the energy from the Nexus made everybody forget it happened. I don't give a shit.
He had to fly into it and blow up, and that blew up the Nexus.
I think now that I'm remembering, I think we might have said something like, maybe Picard turns to everybody else and goes, let's just not tell anybody that happened. It's not difficult to come up with a reason. Like the end of The Rock, where it's he was vaporized or something. But I think that the climax of this show has to involve Picard interacting somehow with a new Enterprise.
Yeah.
Much as I thought it was a cheap shot in Discovery to end their season by showing the Enterprise, because it was it really felt desperate, and it kind of still feels desperate going to the second season.
Yeah,
I think if you don't have Picard and the next generation of Enterprise and crew interact in some form, I think you're really missing an opportunity.
Yes, I agree 100%, and I think
because I just want to see what it looks like.
I think that's the fine resolution that the captains. I mean, it just mirrors thematically the franchise. It's the franchise is never ending, and it's just characters passing the torch, and them fading away. Their death is really just not being a part of the franchise anymore, which is more satisfying. And you don't need to kill them. You don't need to throw them off of a bridge or anything like that. They can just have a good goodbye, which is not Nemesis, a 30-second scene where they're drinking champagne with each other while one of them has died, and everyone is thinking about that. Have a happy farewell thing, like Star Trek 6. Star Trek 6 is a great wrap-up.
Please just make Data the voice of the computer on the ship, please. That's the only thing I ask.
Well, B4 is still out there, so
I don't care. But Spiner's not looking. He's not as young as he used to be. Let's put it that way.
No.
You got that thumb drive with Data on it. Use it.
So let's say here. So Clay, give us your quick So I'll ask you a couple rapid fire questions about it.
Yep.
Before we wrap this up. So miniseries or seasons? Would you prefer?
I would prefer one-off season.
Over under on characters you'd like to see would be like 3.5. Would you like to see more returning characters or less returning characters?
I think that's going to be entirely plot based for me. Who am I kidding? The minute Worf and Riker show up, I'm going to go, oh my god. Yeah, I'd say 3. Did you say 3.5?
Yeah. So for the over and under, would you like to have less than 3.5 or more than 3.5?
I would say 3 is probably the right number. Somewhere in there.
Yeah.
3 or 4. Again, I don't know what circumstances. I just don't think it needs to be like Picard, going off and hanging out with everybody, one at a time or whatever.
Yes, right. So last question. What is Picard's status at the start of this series? Retired admiral, ambassador, working on the grapevines.
I would say ambassador is very likely. Fully retired, possibly. I guess it depends on what kind of story they want to tell. Because if he's fully retired, then does allow more of a, it's gonna somehow be involved with them pulling him back in to do something.
Yeah.
Or maybe not. I don't know. I think that's a really tough call. I think having him be 12 episodes of Picard on a winery is not a wine vineyard is not impossible. I think it's probably not what they're going to do, but they could.
They could, yeah. He's too old to do the Discovery action stuff, which is nice. Which is he can't do that at this point, I don't think. Anyway, maybe he's in better shape and better aging than I think he is. But he wasn't particularly leaping around the stage when he made that announcement.
Yeah, I'm going to say lean more towards some sort of ambassador thing. Ambassador or retired. That's where I'm going to go.
I'd invert them. I'd say he's probably retired, and then a diplomat ambassador would be the second choice.
Yeah.
Towards the end of his question.
Career. Yeah. Does he have, was it neuromotic syndrome? Is that the thing from All Good Things?
Oh, yes. So do you think they're going to tie in All Good Things as like a potential truthful future?
Probably not.
That would involve watching the other series.
Yeah, and also, you could just hand wave that and say like, well, that was all Q. So.
Yep.
Oh man, what if Q comes back?
He's got to, right?
Yeah. What if it's just 8 episodes? What if it's like My Dinner with Andre, but it's just Picard and Q for 8 episodes, like having dinner? I would watch that.
I would watch that too. It's actually you could get a lot out of that, or just like every it's kind of like comedians in cars getting coffee with Jerry Seinfeld, except Picard is the person flying the shuttlecraft around and he picks up like old friends.
Yeah. What if Patrick Stewart did say it's not Picard in the way that he might not be a captain, it might be something new. It's like, what if he's like a taxi driver?
We'll see. I'm optimistic about this. I think there's a lot that could go wrong. I don't like the creative team. Well, I don't like the Discovery production team so far, which is based entirely on Discovery's first season. But it seems like they have enough new blood in this. They have my wife loves that Michael Chabon prize-winning book, Cavalier and Clay.
Oh yeah.
She loves that book. So maybe he's a good character. She likes character work, so he's got to be a good character writer. I don't know. It'll be interesting. I'm not scared, I guess, yet. We don't really know anything, but it seems positive, and I would just love it to be I'd love a 6-episode miniseries that closes out the Teen G era.
Yeah, I think that's probably the sweet spot, is like 6 or 8. I don't know if you could really go a whole. Maybe you could. I don't know. It might make it too difficult. I think if you're just dealing with him and wrapping that up, I think 6 to 8 is probably the best way to go.
So last thing, which is kind of tangential to this. So CBS All Access realized that once Discovery went off the air, everyone canceled CBS All Access.
Yeah, no shit.
So their new game plan is to basically make content constantly. They have to become like a YouTube thing where you need a reason to go there every day. They've decided to make shorts, which if I look at it cynically, is, it's clearly just being done to keep people on the service so that you get to watch these shorts. However, I do like the idea of a Star Trek shorts being like a feature that you could have every once in a while. Do you have any quick thoughts about that?
I think that's great. I think, well, I was going to say that would be a really great way to follow through on the original conceit of Discovery, of having it be like an anthology thing. Because, I mean, you could do like, are we talking like an hour, or are we talking like 10 minutes?
15 minutes, okay. I think.
Yeah, that's probably too short to justify like setting something during the timeline of Star Trek 6 or something. But
it's got to be all character work, right? Which I think you can't have an action sequence in it because it wouldn't really make sense. But I think that they could actually make it to flesh out. It's kind of our argument against saying that the books of these things are canon. It's like, these are more canon than the books, but it's an ability to flesh out characters that you missed the first time around.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that would be fun. Do you know, are they specifically going to be Discovery based?
Say it again.
Are the shorts specifically going to be Discovery based?
Yes, I think one is Harry Mudd. One is okay. I'm pretty sure they're all Discovery characters at this point.
So yeah, I don't mind that in principle. Like it's always fun to watch new stuff, but I do kind of see that as cheating a little bit if you're looking for character work, because I think it's the webisode is the digital equivalent of the novelization, where if you say, well, it makes more sense in the novel because they spend more time doing this. It's like, well, if it wasn't on the screen, it doesn't count.
They explain how he got the MacGuffin in the book. You should have read the book.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that stuff I'm not a huge fan of. But when they were doing when they came up to the 50th anniversary for Doctor Who, they did a bunch of those, and they used it as an opportunity to tie up a bunch of loose ends when the show was off the air, basically.
Yeah.
And the biggest one being having the 8th Doctor turn into the 9th Doctor. Or, I'm sorry, they introduced a new Doctor that had not, up to that point, no one had heard of, who had a very specific purpose. And they used the short to have the 8th Doctor transform into this guy, and the 8th Doctor never got his transformation, and every Doctor who's on the show always gets to transform into the next one, but he never got one because they just made one TV movie and then never came back to it. So I mean that was super fun to see that stuff, and that stuff's just like peripheral stuff. So yeah, I think it could be cool, but if they start using that as an excuse to not have to actually do character work and write good shows for the show itself, then I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, it'd be a little bit tougher.
Also, I don't know how this is going to help their cause at CBS All Access, because you're just going to wait till fucking Discovery starts, and then you're going to watch all those shorts, and then you're still going to cancel it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They need more content. That's what they need, more Star Trek. But we'll see how it goes. It's a new era. This isn't the 90s where they could actually burn people out. If you get 1% of the TV population willing to pay for your Star Trek stuff, there'll be enough to make a living off of it for CBS.
I just want to know what the uniforms look like, man. Is it going to be like, are they going to be based on the TNG forward designs, or is it going to be something completely new? I'm dying to see what this symbol looks like.
We'll follow that production designer on Twitter. He's out there, and you'll see his new uniforms and everything like that.
Is it the same guy that spent 3 months of his life designing that Klingon suit that got seen for 30 seconds? Oh, I felt so bad about that at the time, but I felt even worse when I saw the show.
It was so intricate, so intricate. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for listening. Clay, thanks for coming on and give your thoughts.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's I'm always glad to talk about stuff that hasn't happened yet.
It's always good to
that
make
we have little to no information to base our thoughts on.
Guys, thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next time.